Igneel is still alive, and here is why. So Igneel, king of the fire dragons, father of the god dragon Igneel, and stepfather to Natsu Dragneel, two very important characters in the Fairy Tail 100-year quest who share a little bit of an unfamiliar bond which they never knew they had. And what is the main link? Well, it is a fire dragon king Igneel, and that is their main link between those two. So you're probably wondering, why have I titled this video Igneel is still alive? Well, this is going to be my theory that I believe Igneel may make a return in Fairy Tail 100-year quest, and here is how he's going to do it. So Igneel, of course, was a main part of Natsu's life. He was his father, even though technically he wasn't biological, he was still the father figure in Natsu's life, taught him the basics on how to write, how to speak, how to use magic like fire dragon slayer magic, and he really was the main figure at Natsu when he was just a kid. And of course we all know what happened afterwards, the fact that he disappeared afterwards. Natsu joined the guild, and after many episodes, many fights, Igneel revealed himself to be inside of Natsu because they were sealed within the Dragon Slayers, as there was a pact they made to defeat Igneel. So we all know the main story like that, and the fact that Igneel was just really trying to support Natsu to ensure that he never turned into a dragon like Igneel and started to destroy humanity. That was one of the main objectives that the dragons wanted to do, to ensure that there was no future Igneel. So that's the main reason why the dragons were sealed inside the Dragon Slayers. But Igneel in particular also had a very peculiar way of, let's just say, here's what I'm going to say. So Igneel, he was the father figure in Natsu's life, I already explained that. But he left Natsu something very interesting, which none of the other dragons left their Dragon Slayers. Igneel left Natsu a muffler. A scaly muffler that looks like a dragon's hide, but is completely white. So what is the significance of this muffler? Well, throughout the series and even right now, Natsu still wears that muffler day in, day out, because it was a gift he got from Igneel, and technically that is his only gift that he has. So why is it that Natsu got that gift, but technically none of the other Dragon Slayers got something? Because that muffler would be providing a lot of protection later on, because let's just say the other Dragon Slayers, they got nothing from the other dragons to remember them by. Nothing like a little bit of a watch, maybe gloves, maybe even an earring, bracelet, nothing like that. It was just Natsu that got a muffler from Igneel. So firstly, you have to think, how did Igneel make that muffler? I mean, technically Zerif is the one that probably made it, but why is it that Igneel was the only one that gave it to Natsu? Why did he know that he definitely needed that sometime in the future? Well, here's where this theory comes in. That muffler, I believe, technically has some of Igneel's spirit sealed within it. Because the way I'm getting this theory is, if you remember back in the Tenro Island arc, when Natsu met Zerif for the very first time, asking, "Who are you?" And Zerif said, "No, you're not ready yet to defeat me." And then he just went on a little bit of a rampage and he unleashed the Anakazman curse. What was the only item that technically saved Natsu's life in that moment? It wasn't his fire dragon slayer magic, it wasn't his friends, it was that muffler. That muffler absorbed the curse because it was able to absorb the dark evil, and it turned the muffler black. So like a one-time protection where if anyone had the Nakazman curse and unleashed it, it would absorb that magic and nullify it, which it did, and that technically saved Natsu's life, because if he wasn't wearing that muffler, he would have been dead, because that is how the curse works. So how did Igneel know that Natsu was probably going to meet with Zerif before the time was ready, and he needed to have that muffler in order for him to absorb the Nakazman curse? That is a little strange in its own, and what's even more strange than that is the fact that a dragon scale sort of muffler was the only thing that was able to absorb the curse. Zerif went on and on about how powerful this curse is, there's no getting rid of it, there's no solution for it, and if one person's got it, they can't be with any of their loved ones, because if they do, everyone will die around them. Legit, if you have the curse, all the people that you love and care for will be killed by it, because that is how the curse works. Because if you mess with life or death, that will be the curse that will be inflicted upon the person, as we saw with Mavis and even Zerif. But why is it that powerful curse, that literally you could say a god curse, how is it that one muffler that Natsu was wearing at a particular moment was able to absorb it? Well, that we do know that dragons are really peculiar creatures. They are mythical creatures and they are very powerful creatures. And so probably absorbing the curse is something that they're able to do, because they are able to nullify all other types of magic. But this is where the theory gets a little interesting, because imagine if it wasn't Natsu that met Zerif at that point. Imagine if it was Wendy or Gadriel or even any of the dragon slayers. Imagine they met Zerif and Zerif unleashed the Nakazman curse on them. Imagine what would have happened. They would have died because they didn't have Natsu's muffler. So the significance of this muffler is very key, because the fact that Igneel gave Natsu the muffler and then later on it didn't provide any sort of use whatsoever. It was just made of like a attachment that Igneel gave to Natsu. And the fact that, well, Igneel did die, we saw him die of course versus Acnologia, but his spirit still lives on. And the fact that he was able to help Natsu, and the fact that he even his power within Natsu, because he was able to use that in the Fairy Tail final series versus Zerif, but he thought that it was a one-shot, one-hit kill, because once he uses that power, he can't use it anymore because it will never regenerate. What if that power is technically stored within that scarf, that muffler, and it's not just the fact that it's power, it is actually Igneel's soul? Because we've seen that technically a dragon can come back in spirit form. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the weird relationship Irene and Wendy have in the Fairy Tail 100-year quest, because Irene, she is technically dead, but she was Queen of the Dragon and the very first Dragon Slayer. And yes, she did become a dragon, and she did of course attach to Wendy, because when she switched bodies with Wendy and then switched back, she left a portion of her soul within Wendy, which then bonded with Wendy, and now we see her of course as a sensei towards Wendy and helping her progress through battles, and we even saw her versus Haku, and she was a big help then. So imagine that same sort of plot with Natsu. Natsu does have a portion of Igneel's soul within him, because whenever Natsu's in a pinch, or whenever Natsu feels as though this is it, this is going to be his end, Igneel was the only one that always pushed him through it. And the main part was when he was versus Master Zero, and you could almost feel that Igneel was with Natsu at that moment, even though technically he was sealed within him. Probably you're thinking, fine, yeah, that's probably why he was sealed within him, that's why he was at that moment. But technically he couldn't communicate with Natsu even though he was inside Natsu, if that makes sense. Because if he could, it wouldn't explain why Igneel never talked to or tried to communicate with Natsu later on. He only tried to trigger his memory with him in order for Natsu to remember his time with Igneel, the words he taught him, and then be able to push past his limits. So Igneel, I believe a portion of his soul is still alive within possibly that muffler that Natsu has, and probably we might even see the return of Igneel in Fairy Tail 100-year quest, which will actually be a sick surprise, and I believe Hiro Mashima might do something like that. So you guys, let me know down below, do you think Igneel is still alive, and do you think a portion of his soul is sealed within Natsu's muffler? Because, like I said, it was the only item ever to absorb a Nakazman curse, and technically dragons are the only thing that are immune to the curse. So how was it that a muffler that Natsu had at that moment was able to absorb it? You guys let me know by dropping a comment below. And if you enjoyed the video and want to see more, make sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications. Thank you guys for watching, take care, and peace.